Fair. Here we go. I now have Bluetooth enabled to make this louder so that people can hear you more effectively.
Can people hear this?
I think they can hear it just fine. Yes.
All right, cool. Thanks for tapping me in.
You're welcome. We
All
improvise.
right, so yeah, I think it's really good to give a quick rundown of what happened and when I say like behind the scenes, I just mean yesterday there was a lot of activity that happened very fast around trying to get this figured out with the city council folks. And I will just say, like, there is no way that we would have gotten the opportunity to introduce another motion asking for HACLA fiscal accountability, asking for a deeper examination without Nithya and her staff. They were the first office to respond to us flagging this issue, to our members flagging this issue, even before like some of the offices that have public housing. And as recently as yesterday afternoon, folks like Kevin De Leon were telling us like, oh, well, we haven't heard from our residents. And they were unaware of the public comment document from when the Housing Authority heard this item last June, right, where their own residents from Boyle Heights are all up in that public comment section saying, we oppose it.
Mm-hmm.
So Kevin De Leon's own office like didn't know where their constituents were at.
Gotcha.
Nithya's folks were like, let's take this. Is there anything we can get attention on? I will say just the politics behind the scenes. This is why the difference between a 14-1 or a 15-0 or a 13-2 vote on this isn't as important to me, is because we're trying to steer a very big ship here. The CSP program has, since its inception, been carefully stage managed by folks at HACLA and the LAPD, and they've insulated it from scrutiny. Mm-hmm. Like if you look back through the record, the UCLA study, we all know the funding issues around that and how it wasn't unbiased.
Yep.
The Urban Peace Institute is like literally a contractor of the Housing Authority, and that's the other group that's done a study on this. So there hasn't really been a genuine independent examination of this. And the last time anyone from the LA City family really looked hard at HACLA was way back when Wendy Gruhl did an audit when she was the controller. And that audit is awful. It's glaring. It's terrible. And that was part of what got the last Housing Authority director fired.
Gotcha.
Right? And 5 of the 7 of their commissioners had to resign.
Mm-hmm.
But there's 2 kind of important points to this. Number one is HACLA is this weird
Community Safety Partnership for Zach.
For Community Safety Partnership. Yep. And like, if you want anyone to explain more than that, even the UCLA Luskin study, their very first recommendation to improve the program is that it should have a mission statement. So it isn't. It doesn't have any specific definition beyond give the cops money from housing services. Like
wow.
That's it. That is what the program is. It does not have a mission statement. No one can give a straight answer on what the program actually does. I've done participatory budgeting all throughout public housing sites in this city, and I know I have full faith that if we can actually set up a system where we just ask residents to prioritize their needs and tell folks and then implement a budget that is based on those things, we don't need to politic them. We don't need to give big speeches about defund the police. I've done participatory budgeting in all different public housing communities, and nobody at any point has said, I think my housing resident services dollars should go to LAPD. That's going to happen because residents have plenty of things they want, and they don't want to invest their very limited public services dollars in LAPD. So, Bonin's Bonin's move to, do another motion on accountability, just the fact of calling it special, getting folks to respond, is far more material than a symbolic, like, oh, I'm going to vote no on this because I think it's bad. And the last thing about the politics of that is, like, Bonin has one public housing site, but it's not a CSP site.
Gotcha.
Nithya has no public housing sites at all. It's probably not the right hill to die on for the two of them to do a no vote, because what's going to happen is offices like Fuscaino and Kevin De Leon that have the majority of the public housing and CSP sites,
Mm-hmm.
and Monica Rodriguez, who has the other CSP site, they're going to say, oh, you're meddling in our affairs. Don't come in and tell a low-income
Gotcha.
community how to police itself. That's, white man from the west side, that's not your place. And
Yeah.
so it's really important. It's like,
We've seen Nuri do
what's
exactly
actually
that
more
and
important?
attack Bonin for exactly that kind of stuff surrounding all of the gas plant related issues.
Precisely. So, like, what's more important here, honestly, like, the next really important move is that we help folks from San Fernando Gardens and Pico Gardens and Mar Vista Gardens who were trying to call in today.
Mm-hmm.
We bring that training on how to make public comment and do it in Spanish and do it with them.
Hell
And
yeah.
have them call in to like 10 council meetings in a row just to practice getting through.
Yep.
And then their public comment can be like, you all pooped your pants. Like, they can say whatever they want, but we need to have folks capable to actually get through, because the whole, that thing about insulating this from real public comment and
Yep.
public scrutiny. Nobody knew about the committee hearing. It was back in September, and no one knew when that thing was at committee.
Mm-hmm.
It's really unreasonable to expect public housing residents to track the public safety committee agenda, right?
Yeah.
And Nithya wasn't there, and I don't think KDL was even there yet.
Back
So,
in September. Yeah. He might have been.
yeah, the council file for this item doesn't include the public document from when the HACLA Board of Commissioners heard it, because it was a different, because HACLA isn't technically part of the city. It lives in this weird jurisdictional limbo where it's like, it's got an MOU with the city, but it's a state chartered agency. So the HACLA documents where the 500 plus, negative public comments live,
Gotcha.
that their Board of Commissioners ignored, are not in the city record.
Oh,
a
so
big
that's
part
what
of
Gina was
we're able
talking
to do
about.
here, yeah, so a big part of getting Mike and Nithya to start another motion, like, now, I'm not supposed, I never told you this, the entire internet, but like, I'm already getting messages back from folks who are like, we want in other council offices, not Mike and Nithya, who are like, we want in on this, like, accountability motion.
Nice.
Like, we want to be involved in drafting that. So the fact that, like, and again, it sucks that this is where the bar is at, but having two council members talk about public housing at the same day at City Hall is a revolution. That probably hasn't happened since the 50s. Like, it is absurd how neglected public housing issues have been
Mm-hmm.
by the horseshoe of 15, because they're in this jurisdictional limbo, because they can coast and ignore it entirely, and there's barely any opportunity to even sound off on public housing issues. So while this, I totally get it. I would prefer, my personal, like, emotionally, it would be more satisfying if Mike and Nithya had voted no on this.
Mm-hmm.
But if what we're serious about is making material change in the lives of our 2,500 public housing residents, what happened today is a big, big change. And we couldn't have done it without Nithya and her staff being really down to dig in around this and go from, like, we've never heard of this program to we can create a politically viable opportunity to ask some questions and force the other council members to at least acknowledge that the questions are real in a matter of 24 hours. That's like a big deal.
That's a much shorter time frame than I did not realize that was what was going on here. Yeah, Sabrina, I totally understand that we are decades behind, but I would say that this is a huge ship to be trying to correct, and we've got a bunch of massive systemic racist issues that are surrounding the planning policies in this this city and county. Like, for decades and decades, the rich white people that have run the city and run the county have been pushing to prevent any kind of public housing expansion. Like that's why the housing that we do have that is public housing is so fucking old and in such a sad state of disrepair. But the one of the things I was going to point out here before we go back to more of the questions from people in the chat is that when it comes to the public comment stuff, Jacob Wucher tried a very interesting tactic that I thought worked, that came off really, really well, and it was seamless. If you want to get it so that people who are not tech savvy can give comment, what they did was they set up three-way calls where somebody who is good at getting on the line and getting into the queue is then able to, like, once they've secured a spot in the queue, they three-way call somebody from in this instance it was from Hillside Villa, and they were able to get people into the comment queue that way, and just the person who is punching the numbers on the phone really quick is able to get in and get them on, get into the queue, get locked in there, and then just shut up and let the member of the community speak, because our system is so completely fucked and is massively weighted against people who are not super tech savvy or who have a bunch of the freedom and the flexibility in their schedules to be able to call in day after day after day and give public comment like this. The system is so fucked.
I absolutely, I agree, and I've been watching the chat, and I just want to give folks like a thoughtful response to the mood. I don't think I have time to hit every item in the chat because I need to go be accountable to our board of people who are public housing residents, my bosses. Mm-hmm. So I need to go give them some report back at noon. But I do want to, and listen, first of all, number one, 100% come to our meetings with our public housing residents and work with them directly. I love, Chris, that idea of getting folks to help do the three-way calls, having that all locked in. That is a material way that folks with tech privilege, with language privilege could really, really help us do this work. We don't have enough people on our side, on the organizer side, who can do that for the amount of people that we had teed up. At 9:50, I was listening to the Pico Gardens Resident Advisory Council members recite their public comments that they had written out and were ready to deliver, and I was like, "This is great, guys, but I need you to call the public comment line. Don't tell me this. Call in the public comment line. Get in line right now." And I would love to find all kinds of ways to better prioritize this. We actually sort of tried not to blow this issue up in a way that tons of people would want to call in and comment on it, to try to keep those lines more clear, which was just a tactical choice. But that's hard because we also owe it to everyone who wrote letters back in June that this, it's public money, it's taxpayer money, so everyone does have a right to sound off. But we really wanted to try to prioritize getting folks from San Fernando Gardens and Pico Gardens, which are CSP sites, really in there to shut down this political posture that oh no, this is non-controversial. When Monica or KDL want to say, oh no, everyone in my district loves this program, the people who actually live there like this. It's that is not true. That's fucking bullshit. We have heard directly from folks repeatedly. And the other thing about whether this is incrementalist or not, this isn't about incrementalist versus radical change. If I had the power to, dig up CSP root and branch, whatever that term is,
root and stem.
If we had the ability to kill it dead tomorrow, we would do so.
Yeah.
This is about figuring out how to build the power, and the incremental part isn't about what our demands are. The incrementalism is about getting ourselves to the point where we have enough power to kill it. We don't just wake up and decide to have that power. The CSP program does not do well under scrutiny. The strategy since it came into its inception in 2011 has been to basically insulate it from scrutiny, deny the public opportunity to really ask questions about it, deny the voices of residents from being part of it. Mm-hmm. So when Mike Bonin in his motion is going to be I want to hear the 15 public housing resident advisory council's opinion on this, that's going to put HACLA and the LAPD on blast because they do not have the support of the actual elected representatives of public housing, right? So that's going to help us start to build the power and change the public narrative around this. And, you know, what we've been fighting for since 2011 when CSP came in, since 2009 when we got Rudy Montiel fired, what we've been fighting for this whole time is to change who's on the HACLA Board of Commissioners, is to get more scrutiny around these programs, to get real participatory budgeting around both the operations budget and the capital budget, so residents have more of a direct say. Because the housing authority, what they're trying to do, right, the housing authority and all public housing has been chronically underfunded since, 1972 was the last year they were fully funded. So, by the way, public housing works. Because show me a private developer that could be working on 30% of expected revenues for 4 decades and still be in the housing business. Wow. None of them would be, right?
Yeah.
So public housing is the most successful housing program we could possibly do. That's the story we need to tell. But we need the right leadership to do it. And the public housing authority leadership that we have right now is a public housing leadership that is trying to crash land a plane and get out of the business of doing public housing. It is a fundamental difference in ideology. It is a fundamental difference in policy agenda. And we need to get our resident leaders to be the ones who are the HACLA Board of Commissioners. And we need to create a bunch of different structures so that they can't make these moves towards policing, towards privatization. And this is the most people that have ever cared about this issue. I've been doing this for over a decade, and I have not this is like the first time that I've been able to speak to a decent number of people in English about this topic, period, because people are starting to care. That is immensely important. I am genuinely extremely excited about our ability to use the tech privilege, the language privilege of folks who are on this. If you're up in the chat saying you want radical change in public housing, I am like, hell yes. Let's figure out how to get the public housing residents who already know, like we don't need to tell them what the right agenda is.
Yeah.
You just ask, what do y'all want? And people want exactly the shit we want already, and they didn't need to read any books to get there. Folks know because they live this situation. And so I am more than ready to let everyone that's hearing my voice right now work with us to get all of our public housing residents in the driver's seat of this campaign in a way that the city council folks actually have to hear them. Yep. It's been a long road, but this is so much more power than we've had in the past, and I am very, very excited about working together going forward.
Cool. Well, thank you, Bill, for thanks for calling in, Bill. We are now doing Talk Radio Knock.la.
Long-time listener, first-time caller. All right, I'm going to jump. I'm going to go tell the board what's up.
All right, thank you so much.